Welcome to the deep dive. We're switching things up a little bit today. We're diving into the world of card games
Oh, cool.
with Pro.Hibited.
Interesting.
It's a game where players compete to be the first to roll a joint.
Okay.
I know, it's a very unique theme.
Yeah.
But stick with us. The mechanics are surprisingly clever,
Okay.
and we're going to explore how a game like this reflects and maybe even impacts
Yeah.
our culture.
What's interesting about Pro.Hibited is that it takes this activity that's often talked about in hushed tones or even judged
Yeah.
and turns it into a game, something fun and engaging.
Right.
And it does this with some pretty clever mechanics that actually mirror the process of rolling a joint.
It definitely seems like there's more to this game than meets the eye. And the fact that the rule set is in 5 languages,
Wow.
French, English, Spanish, German, Italian,
Mm-hmm.
suggests they're aiming for a pretty broad audience.
Yeah.
So how about we walk through how to actually play Pro.Hibited?
Sure. The goal is simple. Be the first player to gather the cards to roll a joint.
Right.
It's like a race, but you're not just running forward. You need to collect specific cards.
Yeah.
Defend against attacks from other players, and maybe even use some strategy to get ahead.
Okay, so let's talk about the cards. You mentioned different types.
Yes, there are 5 main types of cards in Pro.Hibited. You have your product cards, things like weed, Halish, H, and CBD,
Okay.
the core ingredient, so to speak. Then there are element cards, paper, filter, and fire, the essentials for actually rolling your joint.
Those names definitely add a touch of humor to the game, and I see how they directly relate to the theme, but it wouldn't be much of a challenge if it was that easy, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's where the attack cards come in. These can really throw a wrench in your plans. Think wind, rain, or even coughs showing up at the worst possible moment.
I can already imagine the groans around the table when someone plays that copy-S card. So how do you protect yourself against these attacks?
That's where element-resistant cards come into play. A BBQ card can shield you from the rain, while a BOA or blunt card
Oh, interesting.
allows you to switch up your rolling method if needed.
It's interesting how even the defensive cards tie back to the theme. They really put a lot of thought into making the mechanics match the overall concept.
Right.
But how do you actually win a round in Pro.Hibited?
To win a round, you need to play the smoke me card,
Okay.
signifying you've successfully rolled your joint.
Right.
It's the ultimate goal and contributes to the scoring system,
Okay.
which, by the way, has a few different options.
So there's more than one way to play. Tell me more about that.
You could play a quick game,
Okay.
where the first player to score 3 points wins, or a long game where points are assigned to different product cards and you aim for a higher overall score. The long game definitely brings in more strategic thinking because you have to prioritize which ingredients to go after.
That makes sense. It sounds like the long game could get pretty intense. But you mentioned something earlier about a junkie rule. That adds a unique twist. Can you explain that?
Absolutely. The junkie rule is what really sets Pro.Hibited apart from other card games.
Yeah.
You see, when a player wins a round and scores a point, they become the junkie.
Okay.
On their turn, instead of working on their own joint,
Yeah.
they can actually use their cards to help other players complete theirs.
Wow, that is unexpected.
Yeah.
You'd think in a game about being the first to roll a joint, everyone would be focused on just their own hand.
Right.
But this junkie rule introduces a collaborative element.
It does.
That's pretty clever.
It is. It forces players to think about the overall game state, not just their own individual progress.
Right.
And it might even reflect how cannabis is often enjoyed socially, with friends sharing and helping each other out.
I'm really intrigued by this junkie rule. It feels like it adds a whole other layer of strategy to the game. But before we get too deep into analyzing that, why don't we take a look at some of the optional rules that can really shake things up?
Sounds good to me. One of the most interesting variants involves the lost cards. Adding 2 lost cards into the deck actually reverses the direction of play,
Oh, wow.
which can completely change your strategy in an instant.
Whoa, that sounds like it could lead to some serious chaos, especially if you're in the lead and suddenly everyone is working against you. Are there any other interesting variants we should know about?
There are quite a few, actually. If you're looking for a more challenging game, you can make Copious the only attack card that can be played against product cards.
Oh, okay.
This makes those essential ingredients much more valuable and adds another layer of strategy.
I bet that makes those element-resistant cards even more important, too, like having a good hiding spot if the cops show up.
Right.
What about player count? Does the game scale well with different group sizes?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Pro.Hibited can be enjoyed by a range of players. There are rules for adjusting the number of cards in hand depending on how many people are playing,
Okay.
which helps to keep things balanced.
That's good to know, because you don't want one person to have a huge advantage just because there are fewer players. So are there any variants that speed up the game
Yeah.
for those times when you want a quicker, more intense experience?
If you want to really pick up the pace, there's a variant where the BBQ card lets you light multiple joints at once.
Okay.
Imagine the satisfaction of scoring multiple points in a single turn.
That sounds pretty wild. I can only imagine the level of competition that would create. Are there any rules that make the game even more cutthroat, for those who like to play with a bit of an edge?
If you're looking for a more aggressive game, activating the double junkie level is the way to go.
Okay.
It actually allows the junkie to steal an element card right from the table,
Oh, wow.
adding a whole new level of interaction and competition.
I'm sensing a theme here. They've really thought of everything from the casual player to the hardcore strategist. But beyond the mechanics and the gameplay, I'm really curious about the overall message this game sends.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not every day you see a card game based on rolling a joint.
You're right. It is a bold concept.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the most fascinating things about Pro.Hibited.
Yeah.
It's taking this activity, which is often seen as taboo or controversial,
Right.
and presenting it in a playful, engaging way.
Right.
It makes you wonder if this could be a way to destigmatize cannabis use,
Right.
to open up a dialogue that wouldn't happen otherwise.
It's giving people permission to talk about it, to laugh about it, and maybe even to learn something new along the way.
Right.
And the fact that it's a game, something that's inherently social and interactive, could make those conversations even more natural.
Imagine this. You're sitting around with friends playing Pro.Hibited.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're having a conversation about cannabis that you wouldn't have had in any other context.
Right.
It breaks down those barriers,
Mm-hmm.
creates a sense of openness and camaraderie.
It's kind of brilliant when you think about it. It normalizes the conversation without being preachy or judgmental.
Right.
It just presents it as a fun, shared experience. But we also have to acknowledge that not everyone might see it that way.
Yeah.
Some might be concerned that a game like this is promoting drug use.
That's a valid point, and it's important to address those concerns.
Right.
First and foremost, it's crucial to remember that Pro.Hibited is clearly intended for adults.
Right.
It's not being marketed to children. It's a game meant for mature audiences who can engage with the theme in a responsible way.
And it's not glorifying drug use. It's using the act of rolling a joint as a framework for a game.
Exactly.
The focus is on the strategy, the competition, the social interaction. It's about outsmarting your opponents and having fun with your friends.
The mechanics of the game, the card types, the scoring system, it's all designed to create an engaging and entertaining experience.
Right.
The fact that it revolves around rolling a joint is almost secondary. It's the hook, the theme that sets it apart, but it's not the sole focus.
And you could argue that by presenting the topic in such a lighthearted and humorous way, Pro.Hibited is actually demystifying it rather than glamorizing it.
It's taking something that's often shrouded in secrecy and presenting it in a way that's approachable and even funny.
Yeah.
And that can be a powerful tool for education and harm reduction. Because let's face it, people are going to use cannabis regardless of whether it's legal or not.
You're absolutely right. So wouldn't it be better to have open and honest conversations about it? Conversations that are based on facts and understanding rather than fear and misinformation.
I believe so.
Mm-hmm.
And if a game like Pro.Hibited can help facilitate those conversations, then that's a positive thing.
Yeah.
It's about starting a dialogue, challenging preconceived notions, and ultimately promoting a more informed and nuanced understanding of cannabis and its role in our society.
That's a really insightful perspective. It's not just about the game itself. It's about the conversations it can spark, the questions it can raise, and the potential it has to shift perspectives.
It's about using the power of play to engage with a complex issue in a way that's both entertaining and thought-provoking.
And speaking of thought-provoking, there's another aspect of Pro.Hibited that I find particularly intriguing.
Okay.
The multilingual rule set. It's not just a cool detail. It speaks to a larger message about inclusivity and cultural exchange.
That's a great observation. Cannabis culture transcends national borders and language barriers.
Right.
It's a global phenomenon,
Mm-hmm.
and Pro.Hibited reflects that in a very deliberate way.
By offering the rules in 5 different languages, it's like they're inviting people from all over the world to join in, to share a laugh, and maybe even to connect over a shared interest.
Imagine a group of friends from different countries speaking different languages coming together to play Pro.Hibited.
Yeah.
They might not understand every word the other is saying,
Hmm.
but they can still connect through the shared language of the game.
It's like a universal language, a way to bridge cultural divides and create a sense of community around something that's often seen as divisive.
It is.
And that's a powerful message, especially in today's world.
It's a reminder that despite our differences, we can still find common ground. We can still connect with each other, and we can still have fun together.
And maybe, just maybe, through those shared experiences, we can start to break down those barriers and create a more understanding and accepting world. But let's not forget that at its core, Pro.Hibited is a game,
Right.
and it's meant to be fun.
Absolutely. The humor, the strategic gameplay, the unexpected twists, it all comes together to create a truly enjoyable experience. And who knows, maybe while you're busy trying to roll the perfect virtual joint, you'll also find yourself engaging in conversations and challenging assumptions in ways you never expected.
It's like it's sneakily educating you while you're having fun.
Right.
So what do you think? Could a game like this, with its playful approach to a complex issue, actually make a difference?
It's fascinating to consider that a game could be a catalyst for change. We often think of games as a way to escape reality.
Yeah. They can also hold a mirror up to society and encourage us to think critically about important issues.
You're right. Think about the impact of games that explore historical events or social injustices.
Right.
They can be incredibly powerful tools for education, empathy, and even activism.
And in the case of Pro.Hibited, it's using humor and lighthearted gameplay to tackle a topic that's often surrounded by stigma and misinformation.
Right.
By making it fun and engaging, it creates a space for open dialogue, which is so important for breaking down those barriers.
It allows players to approach the subject of cannabis from like a different angle, to see it through a new lens.
Yeah.
Instead of being bombarded with statistics or scare tactics,
Yeah.
they're invited to explore the culture surrounding cannabis in a way that's both informative and entertaining.
And the fact that it's a game, something people typically associate with enjoyment and relaxation,
Right.
could make it even easier to have those conversations.
Yeah.
It takes away the seriousness and the judgment and replaces it with laughter and friendly competition.
Exactly. Pro.Hibited provides a framework for discussion, a starting point for exploring different perspectives.
Right.
And it does so in a way that's approachable and non-threatening.
Yeah.
It's not about preaching or lecturing. It's about sparking curiosity and encouraging people to think for themselves.
And I think the junkie rule is a really clever way to subtly challenge some of the stereotypes associated with cannabis use.
Yeah?
It emphasizes the collaborative, community-driven aspect of the culture, which often gets overlooked.
It's a great example of how Pro.Hibited goes beyond just the mechanics of the game
Right.
and incorporates social commentary into its very design.
Yeah.
It's not just about rolling a joint as quickly as possible. It's about working together, helping each other out, and sharing the experience.
It's a reminder that even in a competitive setting, there's room for cooperation and camaraderie.
For sure.
And that's a powerful message, not just within the context of the game, but in life as well.
Pro.Hibited also offers a sense of agency and control, which is something that's often lacking in conversations about cannabis.
Yeah.
Players get to choose how they want to play, which strategies they want to employ, and how they want to engage with the theme.
That's an important point. It puts the power back in the hands of the players, allowing them to shape their own experience and draw their own conclusions.
Right.
It's not about dictating a specific message or agenda. It's about providing a platform for exploration and discovery.
And that's where the real potential for change lies.
Yeah.
When people feel empowered to ask questions, to challenge assumptions, and to form their own opinions, that's when true progress can be made.
So, while we can't definitively say that playing Pro.Hibited will single-handedly change the world's perception of cannabis,
Right.
it certainly has the potential to spark meaningful conversations, challenge stereotypes, and encourage a more informed and nuanced understanding of this complex issue.
It's a step in the right direction.
Hmm.
A reminder that sometimes the most unexpected things can be catalysts for change. And who knows, maybe one day we'll look back at games like Pro.Hibited and see them as pioneers in a new wave of social commentary and cultural engagement.
So, to our listener, we leave you with this. Don't underestimate the power of games.
Mm,
They can be more than just a form of entertainment. They can be tools for learning, for connection, for reflection, and even for social change.
for sure.
And as you continue to explore the world of Pro.Hibited and other thought-provoking games, Remember to keep an open mind, engage in those conversations, and embrace the power of play to shape our understanding of the world around us.